Again, since Hinayana practitioners and Aryas don't have bodhicitta, do they, it's a double negative here, do they not accumulate the, or the single negative, do they not accumulate the two collections as discussed this morning? I'll put it positively, do they accumulate the two collections as discussed this morning? Tekbomenbek Tekmen Pakpa Changsen Metsang Di Tsokni Sagir Pesa.
Timen Papa Changsen Metsang and Kasi.
Changsen Metsang Tsokni Sankan Yorpesa.
So you Saga Yorpesa. Oh, that to Cho de la Chetang. Oh, Cho de la. 다지죠 탑차바진지죠 초 파와점이 와래 이시그 초당 선왕구 초 파와점 요아래 맞아 초 천인바 수구두지 그 주주의 그 초지가 막 팀에 파발.
So then the answer to that is that the Aryas who have followed the lesser vehicle do not, because they don't have bodhicitta, they do not accumulate the what is called the accumulation of merit in the definitional sense of that. That is the accumulation of merit which produces the physical embodiments of Buddhahood. They don't have that. They don't accumulate that. Now, however, they do accumulate a collection of merit. It's just not the one. It's not. It's not. Because the activities that they do are not governed by bodhicitta. It doesn't serve to produce the embodiment of physical embodiment of Buddhahood, as discussed there. Excuse me. The yeshigitso.
Yeshigitso jibare. Sonam chodan yeshigitso. Tamakunyi to asho. Sonam yeshigitso zoxing. Segala. Tajin zo sugu zhujiki. 라제 조제당 추구 주제기 라제 조제 있잖아 다 될라 삼바 탑 잡을 전지 심말 고고 아래 이러와 된다고도 년도에 명하체 랑 제당 추구 주송와 잠당 수구 주송와 잠 요하체.
So one can say that these Hinayana practitioners and the Aryas who have achieved that level from following the Hinayana path, they do collect merit. They create a collection of merit, and they accumulate a collection of gnosis as well. However, because those two are not governed by this special attitude of bodhicitta, they're not controlled or governed by that special method, which pertains to the Mahayana type of practice. Therefore, they're not producing the merit and gnosis that are sort of like the direct causes of the two aspects of Buddhahood, the Dharmakaya and the physical embodiments of Buddhahood. But you can say that the merit and gnosis that they're accumulating will serve as a cause, will function as a cause for the achievement of Buddhahood. Did you get that?
Yeah.
I didn't get that. I don't understand that. Oh, does this supreme? Okay, yeah. 초기 투구 두차 릭친 숨카 치수능도가 드니 디 년트당 랑상기 기릭친 디 된솔 년트당 랑상기 기릭친 라 택배침 탑 창축기 심 숨낭기 두개사
최소는 대바치 비치에서고 말아와
택배침 숨고
말아와 년대기 코로나기 안에 가서래 년대기 창축 줍지기 힘의 글람지를 받지 숨고 알아와 라 년대기 가서 되라天然람 되비지 봐 아랑자지 람 되비지 봐 라 내가提进了 쇼무동 같은 애들 내가 안에 동안이와 시민시 주변에 탑 안점내 되게 요아와 어땠은 거래.
So the Bhagavan here, Bhagavan is referring to this supreme Nirmanakaya, or Bhagavan like Buddha, like Shakyamuni Buddha. That embodiment of Buddhahood, or that form of Nirmanakaya, teaches methods that are appropriate for the three different types of persons, the Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddhas, and the Bodhisattvas. So temporarily, while they're not in a condition to receive these teachings on Mahayana, then on that occasion, in that sort of context, then that Nirmanakaya does not teach the Mahayana paths to the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Rather, it teaches the methods by which Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas can, or persons who are going to follow those paths are able to achieve liberation, the cessation of samsara as it's actualized within the Shravaka vehicle and the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle. So he doesn't teach Mahayana teachings to, it doesn't teach them. It is said that by developing calm abiding, I'm going to use the word shamatha here for this. It's translated often as calm abiding, but I use shamatha, which one's virtuous actions can result in greatly more merit. Something like one day with shamatha can generate 100 years of merit without shamatha. If so, should one first develop shamatha? The Jine yorwa. Jine yona. Deni gewa Jine mena. Deni gewa katsu sagnya.
Jine mena kare.
Shini mena yinsen chikla gewa katsu sagnayang di shini yuna dini dile lo gyagi sunam yore. Yeah.
I say.
This question is hard to translate for me. Cause michik shini meba.
Shini meba.
Shini meba. Dini lo gyatsam Gewasak, Sanken Yorba. Shinian,
Lesa was Silve.
Lesa, Gewile, Sanken,
you are right.
Logiala. Any Shiniana, Nimachik, the Gewa, Dendis Satu Pesa. Chetsan, the Shini, Dambo Shini Dukuru Pesa.
Lugumari, less about a Shimet Lugumari. 교회 내에서 발에 신의 두고 말이었어. 다 참 내에서 발에 신의 두고에 가와래서 고마를 끼와 내에서 발라. 수단 수매 끼와 내에서 발라 신의 두고래.
그래서 미치 신이 메나 신이 로갈 개와 사kenyor와.
신의 메나야.
아니 신이 요나 미디 신이 요나 Deni nima chikla dendis.
Keba yo mari lesa bala shine wa shine yone kewa jala to chanda yo mari keba yo mari shin ne 미발의 제주도 내버게 내사답 치와당 아니 미발의 제주도 만내버게 내사제 충아들이 제발요 말았어요.
No, that's not right. So it says here that if there's no real difference in the amount of merit that you generate through being single-pointedly focused on the topic or whatever the object that you're generating merit with respect to, as opposed to not having that sort of single-pointed focus. So initially, Rinpoche said that the achievement of shamatha as such is primarily, or what it primarily results in is rebirth in one of the upper levels of existence. But if you want to be reborn in those upper realms of existence, the four meditative concentration states or the four non-physical states, then you definitely have to have shamatha, this kind of meditative concentration. Die kologyupe gyalpo, die kaba dan kadu, jikten dil kadu dan kab. I'm sorry, I didn't read the question. Question about the Universal Wheel Emperor. When and where do they come in our world? Who can fully see them, and are they 10th level bodhisattvas? Kologyupe gyalpo, di ngatsu jikten la kadu dan kaba yongir esa bangpo. Kologyupe gyalpo. They appear in the world. And kaba, and kadu, when and where? They appeared in the world. They appeared in India probably in the past, and they'll come in the future again. And the kologyupe gyalpo the jenken suresa. Su kologyupe gyalpo la su jeltukires.
Kologyupe gyalpo jegi lesa be kansa tegi kologyupe gyalpo chitukure.
Chitukire.
Lesa be juzo de drup tongenge kansa tegi kologyupe gyalpo chitukure. Juzo de drup maduna chituku mare.
Re. The kologyupe gyalpo gi jenken di mi jen kare yoresa.
Kare yoresa.
The su tongkin kologyupe
gyalpo gangang 아주 진짜 통고 말했어. 요새 gangang 아주 통고 그 말에 뒤에 gyalpo 대단데 제위 뒤에 뒤 안에 통거로 와.
So it's the people who will see them are the people that are born in that place.
좀 전에 샤슈 강강에 안에 콜리지 자오다. 그러와 아니 지단 디단데라 안에 콜리지 자오 중앙에 로지요 알아.
So there's stories, traditions, stories about how at the time of Lord Buddha, Bhagavan Buddha, that there were universal emperors, and so generally, the people that see them are the people that are born in that time and place when they appear in the world. Any the kologyupe gyalpo yina changsim sa chupa yorp imbekyap changsim changjusim be sa chupa
yor chogri kologyupe gyalpo tegi lam nyamso leni an sa ji choba yor chogro wa.
Some didn't know. So someone who becomes a universal emperor could become a 10th level bodhisattva. They can practice the path and achieve that, but it's not the case that all of these universal emperors are 10th level bodhisattvas. No.
Oh yeah, that the Tamakuni Toa show che. That Tamakuni Toa show, DJ la, she tower down la baby chase. 다시 시대만이 남탑시니 아니 대우치수 국군이 제 수완나 신체니 대우치수 주군이 토부지대라 아니 남탑시니 고고아래 남탑시니 탑다시라니 우리 창완라 아니 시다와 때라 바바지 고아래 시다와 군조 댐바당 아니 전담 댐바 대니 때라 바바지 고아래 봐 인상 시다와 때라 베베지 댐바니 차례다 차례다 마송아 다 가상아마도 야 템바 나지 제니가라 가세 군조 조디 전담 조면이 봐 전담 조디 아니 군조 조면 미미 봐 뭐 제가 군조 되니 대래님 대래님 봐 타바 주민 타냐 댐바 탑수 주와다 전담 댐바 탑중 주와대 제니 오다 우마주바라 소만나신 체니 요 시대반이 그 남사대 냠 조메세나 아니 되니 조메세와 군조 되니 대래냠 아니 라시주 동 라시주 동이 샤소지 담아 아니 군조 담바 조메도 봐 군조 담바 조디 가나 라시주 동바 조메도 봐 다르 대다 가소래 주다 란지반 면제 된지라와 그러와 가상아마 약전도 쓰잖아 가드디다 꾸인데나 주만 메시 집반메 파베 담바 시오나 철라메 바 타와스로 시가 다시 소와나 시잖아 라시지 동나 때네메 바차 아니 군조 담바 자네 쇼모도 바체 군조 담바 쇼디 가나 라시지 동바 쇼모도 바체 오다 차장다 가와 디니 차장다 가와 가와 손디잖아 손나 되니 남다시 줘야매 봐 인장 대바니 차르다 차르다 마송와 순주 세가라 아니 랑신지 동담디 띵네 아니 군조 대바 샤투에 차제래서 샤투에 유단 대위 남바 남샤 샤투에 어디니 순주 시와 아니 마송와 아니 순주 미시나 차르다 차르다 마송 바르 가서 대반이 차르다 차르 따르 마송와를 순주 미세나 차르다 마송와지고 그래 와 차르다 차르 차베리자다 차베리자 가와라
So here then, it's been explained above that if one understands those two kinds of the awareness or valid understanding of the two portions of that syllogism, the evidence and the thesis, and therefore, by having that kind of understanding and habituating yourself to it over a long period of time, then the method side of the path will ornament and adorn the wisdom side of it, and vice versa. So, therefore, out of that conditioning oneself to it, then one will accumulate the collection of gnosis as well as the collection of merit. And by means of those two collections, then one will have the noble physical embodiments of Buddha as a result, as well as the noble Dharmakaya, those two aspects of the Buddhahood. So in order to do that, one has to, at the beginning portion of the path, establish the basic view. Here, the establishment of the basic view is understanding the two realities, ultimate reality and phenomenal reality. And one has to do that such that these two realities are not contradictory. That is, they don't exist such like something that's hot and something that's cold. Something that is hot cannot be something that is cold, and vice versa. It has that kind of they're direct contradictories or contradictions. So the two realities have to be understood and established in that same way. It's explained. This is explained in the Introduction to the Middle Way, where Master Chandrakirti has said that one has to
군조 대다 군조 대니 대래 전래 냠 대반니기 전래 냠디 군조 조티 전다 좀 메시와 전담 대우 조티 아니 군조 좀 메시봐 뭐 된다 왔달라 아니 타버 주바가 타요 말이 대다 군조 대니 대래 냠 대래 냠바 타버 주여 미
So if we don't understand how to establish phenomenal things or conventional things, then it's impossible to establish emptiness properly. That is the ultimate reality, which is emptiness. So emptiness as the ultimate reality of things, and then the phenomenal aspects of things, that is their functionality, their existence within relationships, serving as for example, an agent, actions and objects of action, those kinds of active relationships like that, or causal relationships where causes give rise to effects. One has to understand phenomenal reality in that that way, and also be able to, while maintaining that understanding of phenomenal reality, its functionality, its causal nature, and so forth. One has to simultaneously be able to establish that that things are devoid of intrinsic nature, empty of intrinsic nature. So it's necessary that these two are coordinated such that when you're understanding things as being empty of intrinsic existence, that is the ultimate reality nature of things, it should not undermine or in any way impede, undercut or impede your understanding of the phenomenal reality nature of things, the functionality and causal nature of phenomenal reality. So these two have to be understood such that that your comprehension of one does not reduce or negate or undercut your understanding of the other. Many people, when they're attempting to establish the two realities, they're not able to do this such that they're not able to do it in a way which does not entail contradictions. So, for example, the Swatantrikas, etc., when they're presenting the two realities, they do it in a way which is not viable in the way that we're discussing it here. So, such that if your understanding of the ultimate nature of things undercuts your understanding of the phenomenal nature of things, then and vice versa, then it's sort of like hot and cold. You see them as if they were contradictory. I think. Oh yeah. So therefore, you have to understand them in an integrated way. The commentary here says, such that they are conjoined together as a pair in an integrated fashion, and that's necessary.
차례다 장례 담다는 차례다 장례 아니 가와 나신 마송와 아니 군조단데 전단대마다 군조대마니 송주도 마시나 아니 대마니 조매시나 아니 람탑시니 람초 탑시니 이제가나 아니 초니 사람 초다 이시기소 아니 대우 최소 그 군이 진남샤양 레반 미셰바 인장 아니 다 대니 그 남이라 태와치고래.
These two aspects of reality, the phenomenal reality and ultimate reality, are such that, again, one has to be able to understand them such that they're integrated properly. If one is not able to link them together as a pair, such that they're integrated in that way, then one won't be able to properly understand the way in which the two collections which one creates on the path, and then the results of those collections, that is the two embodiments of Buddhahood, one will not have a proper understanding of how that is arranged, because this understanding of the two realities is necessary to be able to establish these other things, the path and the result as well.
대다 군조 디니 대래 퇴래냠 퇴래냠 바 타바 주요 유인 타년 대바서 군조 대바 탑수 주와다 전담 대바 탑중 주와데 세가 강라 땡라 밥사기 시군조 대바데 녜라 삼봉에 탑체 대녜와라 땡네 아니 티 땡도 라신지 추바 까바기 아니 동바데 녜와 예장 아니 전담 대바데 탑래 중화 So
in the introduction to the Middle Way, then it says that this phenomenal nature of things is the method, and the ultimate nature of things is that which arises from method, has arisen from method. So what that indicates then is that this understanding of phenomenal things initially is something that one has to achieve at the initial phase, and it's only from that kind of understanding the phenomenal nature of things properly that one can produce a proper understanding of the ultimate nature of things, their emptiness.
Oh yeah, 근데 일단 아니다 가서를 당신이 주와 까도 잡아 군저 좀부터 봤다 마인바 인장 군조라노라 참여 주비 남샤 레바 마시나스 아니 시디딩도 라신지 동바 땡라 밥디가 간라 아니 라신지 주와 동바데 크장 크뒤 잡아 동시 코라야 아니 크조와 되게 마인바 동시 안에 참여 주바 남샤데 레바 마시나 수군이 안에 산제 란주지 마두바 아니 두지 현황 라 샤고와 소 주당을 받는 중앙에 말이 중앙에
So this here the necessity of first establishing the conventional nature of things as a basis for understanding their absence of intrinsic existence, their ultimate nature, or the ultimate reality aspect of things, is so because it's only if you don't understand properly how it is that the ultimate nature of things, the ultimate reality of things, their emptiness, is related to the phenomenal reality of things, that aspect of things, then if you don't have that understanding in place, then when you engage in the kind of analysis and establishment of the absence of intrinsic nature of things, that you investigate any particular thing and you look for its final nature, and when you do that kind of analysis and you come to the conclusion that it's absent, it's devoid of intrinsic nature, that if you have not first properly established the phenomenal nature of things, then that would lead you into thinking that the negation of intrinsic nature or intrinsic existence of the thing is actually a negation of even the phenomenal nature or the phenomenal existence of the thing. And you won't be able to understand properly how it is that emptiness is a quality or property which exists based upon its specific base, that is
아니 동시 체전 거야 몇만 줘 봐. 동시 체전 참여 줘 줘.
So there, I mean, what's happening there is that in this kind of analysis, one takes anything as a basis, and this is, if you're looking for its final nature, you investigate, you analyze that thing, And when you do that kind of analysis, you find that its final nature is its lack of intrinsic existence or intrinsic nature. And that's the emptiness which one establishes through doing that kind of an analysis of the base. But if you don't do this properly, you come to the misunderstanding, or you misapprehend this as if the ascertainment of the emptiness entails the negation of the basis, the basis that you've been investigating, such that that thing would cease to exist in any way whatsoever. That's a major misconception or misapprehension of how this works. So you have to be able to maintain the establishment of the conventional nature of the thing, the conventional existence of the thing which is the basis upon which you're doing this investigation, and upon which the emptiness as such is based.
Oh yeah.
Di machina zuku.
Ani sanje suku niwo de sanje ranju ji maduba. Ani doji xiango tamla cha. Ani xiango tamla xiago waki. Ani chupta ngaba tu xiago.
If one doesn't have this kind of understanding, which is able to, it says it literally in the commentary here that the phenomenal is such that if you don't properly understand how the phenomenal things are established by means of valid cognition in our own system, the system of Madhyamika here, then you'll end up with various kinds of bad philosophical ideas, such as the position that that the two physical embodiments of Buddhahood, Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, are not included within the actual or own continuum of a Buddha. Rather, they're simply something that appears, are merely posited as appearing within the for others who are to be trained.
Oh yeah, that day, they change our chat. That didn't. Oh, you saw that. That's when you saw about like Gilu Michava Dambatella. Sumba Tony saw about like Gilu Michava Dambatella, but then Jesset is to do some Yebenan and Dot Dambani. That's Sanjeji, command Tobam, Sanjay Druba Chebala, and it's so tired, but. And it's in this Sako to Kajin Hamisum Sawaki, that's all tired by Sako in Zang. So tell them Sakuna, and it tells them Castle son, Casa Sundaji and son, Nugiam, Mareniam to see you Yamdu, and a human Michawatela. Ribatani Lundaba, Uji Chibi, Duty. Chanju Dribi Sonamni, Dilla Gilu Michawo. So do no. Or the la Gilu Michabo. That digger carrier, Lana may be Chanju Drubi, Sonam is so soban Dilla, and a Gilo Beach, and a yellow chiku amare, Michabo. Listen, you do not tire by Yamsun, Mugoba. And it's on the lot of saw nobody, Ribatan, and a Ribatan, and a Jesum Jitabi. Jabasum Jitabi, and Luna Tenin, what Temple Jabba. What Temple Jabba.
So, Didaki Namsha Geber. Didaki Namsha Geber. Tepochimbo Yulam and Dinchugi Namsha.
I say,
Didaki Namsha Geber.
Subject.
Mare, Didaki Namsha Geber. Tepochimbo Yulam Dinchugi.
Listen, you do not tire by Yansun, but told that. The Yagi Kaza. The Yagi did I get Namsha Java said the Annie they did I get a Honda Shaba key Namsha Java de Annie Tipachim Dilla Mitanjo Namsha Share, but Annie Tilla. So
at the end of that last section, then it says a more extended presentation of these topics that were just given in the previous section has been established within the exposition of the Uttara Tantra treatise, which the great Uttara Tantra, the Mahayana Uttara Tantra, or sometimes it's called the Ratnakotra Vibhaga. What is that? I forget. Gyulami. No. Well, this is in reference to the commentary that Gyaltsab Dhamma Rinchen himself composed on the higher the Uttara Tantra is like the higher system of the Mahayana, and it's presented extensively in that. And so if one wants to examine this in more detail, then one should look at that, should read that exposition of it. And then next comes an instruction that one should not become discouraged at accumulating the two collections. This has multiple subdivisions, an extensive explanation, summation of this, an extensive explanation, and then the concluding summary. And so first comes a brief exposition of this topic, where it says that one should not become dejected thinking that if it's the case that one needs to accumulate such a limitless mass of limitless collection of merit and gnosis in order to accomplish Buddhahood, then who could possibly do this? One shouldn't become dejected having that kind of thought. And this is presented in the next verse 14, saying, "You should not be discouraged about accumulating the merit for obtaining awakening, since there are reasons to be reassured set forth by both reasoning and scripture." And then this explains, in the commentary on this says that one should not become discouraged about collecting accumulating the collections of merit which are necessary to achieve unexcelled awakening. That because it's not the case that one necessarily has to experience limitless physical and mental suffering in order to do that kind of a collection of the merit, because there's reasons that show that one is able to easily accumulate this collection of merit. And then also, in addition to the reasonings, there's scriptural passages, scriptural statements, which are can be established as validly the case by means of the three types of analysis.
Oh yeah,
Chepasumgi.
Oh, Chepasumgi Taba se gana, and you castle lungi tunda la, lungi turn la, ani lungi jeje turn la, musum, ani moto jeba. That answer Mujikawa Sochi, never Yana, easy jebam, ranting out Najikawa Sumji, any or never meba in the Jebasumji ta, Lundi Jeji Turla. That when you then be chassia, you are the new song of the Lundi, Tong on you then be cha. Jusa got you then be cha. Shingo then be cha, Shaji Nesum che. Shaja Nesum Sera, Toma, Annie Castle. Gunzen some Megoba, Musungu you to Cuba, on you check. Junsa got you say Ganate, Toma Gunzen Gilatana, Gunzen Yanda, Matachi Latana, Tom, Matoba, Musum the Tom, Nubatella, and it Junsa got you check. Sindu got you say, and that the Quantishabanachi, they give it Latin and do they were Jumada. Miki Villa Tenant to Machuma. Quando Anzu Yagasha, children so much than a tendoje. O dingy chante, Anita, Lungi, Jebasum Jitabi Lung Latena. 农军来带来结果吧，这因啥结果属于他被太死个了，兄弟团了，安尼我的。台大给参，你把没把给，我点不你的，我点不结巴，多去结巴了说吧，错说别看啥，我今把前比军产第一是，安尼快要动完了，我今把俺上个动完了，我今把前比军产第一，安尼我看说的，说那么大一些个错吧啦，安尼错吧切吧。
So here, with respect to scriptural statements, which are have undergone the three kinds of analysis, this is referring to that are pure in the sense of having these scriptural statements are pure because they've undergone the three types of analysis, and therefore they're suitable for these scriptural statements are suitable for giving rise to a very stable kind of ascertainment, confidence in the truth of the scriptural statements. Here, the three kinds of analysis refers to here, if there's a statement in Scripture, one can examine it under three ways. And these three types of analysis have to do with the three categories of objects of knowledge. As we mentioned previously, objects of knowledge are categorized into three types. There's objects of knowledge which we are perceptible. That is, just with our senses, we can see them, smell them, taste them, and touch them, and so forth. These perceptible objects. And then there's slightly hidden objects, which one needs to employ inference so as to establish their existence. That is just reasoning, basically. Through reasoning, we can establish that something is the case. Then the third category is called very obscure or highly hidden objects. And these are things like, for example, in statements in Scripture where it says that through guarding one's ethical conduct, maintaining one's vows or ethical conduct, that one will experience happiness in the future, or that through the creation of merit, one will experience happiness in the future, or through the creation of non-virtuous or non-meritorious kinds of karma, one will experience suffering. These sorts of statements, to fully establish them, one has to have confidence in the speaker who said these statements, and in order to establish that, one has to subject them to these three kinds of analysis. Now, the first sort of topic, if a statement in the Scripture is contradictory to something that's obviously perceptible, then one has to interpret it as in some other way. And likewise, that applies in terms of inference as well. If there's a statement in the Scripture which needs to be, which doesn't conform to that which can be established through valid reasoning, then one has to interpret it in some other fashion, other than the obvious expressed the words that are as they're expressed. So, and then the third category too, in order to verify that something which is stated in the Scriptures that is not either directly perceptible or establishable through inference, one has to go through the process of establishing that the speaker is a valid speaker, and that the statement that one is considering is not, does not contradict that which is found throughout the entire body of the speaker's statements. Here we would we'd examine the overall context within which the statement is made, and see how it fits into that overall context of the speaker's statements. So Scripture that has been subjected to those three kinds of analysis and has been purified, is pure and correct through that kind of analysis, is something that one can based upon which one can generate firm kind of confidence, ascertainment. And an example that's given here is like the Vajrachetaka or the Diamond Cutter Sutra and other sutras of that sort. By means of this reasoning, which functions to relieve, to provide relief for the person who is engaged in accumulating the collections. By means of this kind of reasoning, then such a person will develop and obtain great eagerness towards the accumulation of the collections.
Oh, yeah. Dilubani Michache said that Tandamando, Jinju Gala in the Zua, Daga Chanju Kalashi, Dilubani Michati, Teda Tishin Shevani, Damba Dembe, then the song. See, my Chanju Totugu Mare, Chanju Toba Tebala, Ani Gajin Hamis to So Sabatan. Ani Lu Longe Jimba Tamala, Tamala Soa, Ani Teda Tugu Mare. Mutuba Yenza, Ane Gilu Chigu Amaris. What the Gilubani Mechate, what tella? Attendeki, any Giluchiba Mechate, Tishin, Teta Tishin Shabani, Dambasum Bet, and the Sum, Tishin Shava, Dambasumagi, and Damba de Sumares. Dambusharam Pumata, Tishin Simbo Conjurba, Tejan Zembe Tojena, Chanju Toka Laneto. Dada Regime, he gave me. Pendant never Moshebe, T. Chanju Chimito, said that the Chibachochira. The Karasumurezana, Sanjaji, Command Toba Chebalat, Ani T. Rumbo Tosa Guatan, Ludan Longi Chimbaton, Lasova, Chigore, Tedangala, Nadutukumare, Sena, or Tendiki Giluma Gilumisha, Gilupatimisha. Ani, oh, Mizade. Teta Tishin Shawai, the Tishin Shawa Dambasumaki, and the Dembe Tick the Sumares, Karasumaresana, Dambudan, Shadanda, Pumatanga, Sova, Teta Laya, Sanjaji, Yebe, Teta Guzembe, Tobjena, and the Chanju Tobachumare. That village may share Tandang, Mulu Tom. And a Pembadan never washe. Lando Jinan, Shebe, and then Dumna, and the Chanju Mijuba, the Sigmare, Sumata, that the Ichiba.
So here then it says one shouldn't become discouraged thinking that how is it possible to achieve, to collect that kind of, amass that kind of collection of merit that's been discussed above. It's, you know, how could one possibly do that? The reason why one shouldn't be discouraged is just like, well, here the reason that's given is because this has been stated in Scripture that it is possible to do that. Scripture which can survive the kind of analysis, threefold analysis that we've mentioned. And the same exact ideas are presented in the introduction to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where it says, we shouldn't think, how can I possibly achieve Buddhahood? Or that thought. People, sometimes we might think that it's, how could I possibly achieve Buddhahood? That's impossible, you know, it's too much. But it's, that is actually, that kind of thought is erroneous, is mistaken. And then the reason that's given for that is that, and the reason is that it is, as it is stated in the scriptures by the Tathagata, the Buddha has said that we can achieve Buddhahood. This statement of the Buddha is true, is something that is true. And the example that is given for that is that later on in the verses, Shantideva says that if a fly, if a deer, if animals like that, if bugs and so forth are able to achieve Buddhahood, then why couldn't I, now that I've become a human being, why couldn't I achieve Buddhahood? So the example there is that these insects and animals and so forth, have achieved Buddhahood. Buddhas have been insects and animals at one time, but now that we've achieved this human condition, if we put in the effort, and also as humans, we have a special understanding. We can know things that we should avoid, things that we should do. We're able to understand the essential points of the things that are to be gotten rid of or avoided, and the things that we ought to do. So with that kind of intelligence, if it's the case that insects and animals have achieved Buddhahood, why can't we as humans, having this kind of intelligence that we have at the moment, why can't we do it as well?
Oh yeah, that digi don't them by the chine. That Java Shavala, and a son of the solar Gilu Michava Tambata. Sony Sobala Gilu Michava Tamba. Ni Jenicala, Sonam Gisola Gilu Michava Tamba Telayang, and a castle, Sum Yubin Nane, Tambo, and a change to same GB, Sonam Tayaba, said that, what Sonam Tayaba, said that, castle, Sonam Tayaba, so change to same Jabba, Sonam Tayaba, so good, that Gilu Michava Tambatella. Yeah.
So this leads in, that was the summary or the initial brief explanation of this topic, showing that it's inappropriate, or we should not become discouraged at the idea of amassing or accumulating such a huge collection of merit as it's been described previously. And then, so the extensive explanation of this has multiple subdivisions. First, the instruction, advice to not become discouraged with respect to accumulating the collection of merit, and then advice not to become discouraged at the accumulation of both collections, the collection of merit and the collection of gnosis. So the first of these has, in turn, three subdivisions. The first of which is showing that that the merit of generating the attitude of towards awakening. That is, literally, it's saying generating your mind in the direction of awakening, or producing bodhicitta, has a limitless merit.
Oh yeah, Chonam Kindu Nagatang, Sadam Medan, Sada Chudam Medan, Sita Taya Tishin to Samjan Taya, Duma Samjan Taya de Study Kadasungure Sana, Chonam Kindu, Sigana, and it Dio La Soa, Dio Dang, Choshi Sam. La Sovata Chokin, Chochum, Chonam Kundu. Ani Nangatang, Satang, Chudang, Meta Lunam Chita, Tayaba, Tishindu, or June Casore, come to Tayaba, Tishindu, but that come to that Nagata Chudam me, or Lung, that Tayaba, Tishindu, Namsha Maidobak, Tayaba, Tishindu, Tedang, Chanyambaki, and a Dungaji Semja, Tayaba, Juare. 세대라 초남 군도 나가다 추담 메사다 추담 매당 지다 타야바 대신도 셈제야 아니 대당 장냐바 셈제 타야바 요구와 요아래.
So this next verse then begins the discussion of this. In the translation it says, in all regions, space, earth, water, fire, and wind, the translation says vital energy. That's not right. It should be wind, are without limit. It says infinite, but I would say limitless. So too it is acknowledged that suffering sentient beings are limitless. So here in the commentary on this, it says, if we look up and down in all of the directions, space, earth, water, fire, and wind, how limitless are they? If we think about that and look in all of those different directions, how limitless is it? How limitless are these 5 elements throughout the 10 directions of space? Then similarly, in the same way, there are limitless suffering sentient beings.
어디를 타야봐요. 다 대인장 심전타의 대단히 창조점의 인재에 농아타라 창제의 상제니라 고방에 세가라 다 가르쳐 심전타야봐 대다 아니 자사 창조점바기 아니 저완인지 신부 끝나 랑네 아니 동아래 창와 차대 아니 상제니라 고바 차오 냠도 고방에 와레 와 인장 심전기长达200기 소남양 안에 타야 봐서 그래. 라. 나 진짜 정말 인상 주지. 연이 정말 내면아. 특지라. 가서 가서 일배 두배지라. 심지어 컴네 타야 봐. 세지 요를 가서 팬드 삼바야 타당자. 심지어 타야 봐. 여봐 연장 팬드기 삼바야 대단자와 인글시 대단자와 제바 인장 안에 소나면 대사바 속으로와 속으로와 근데 되어라 둥근내면은 어 대승과리 나네 산제니라 거방에서 산에 되버렸다.
So then the next verse says through a bodhisattva's love and compassion those infinite sentient beings are led out of their suffering and definitely brought to Buddhahood. Or one can modify this a little bit and say that just as those limitless sentient beings, if out of a bodhisattva's love and compassion, having been led out of that suffering, can definitely be established in Buddhahood. So here, this is what this is indicating then is that if one has that attitude, beneficial attitude towards all sentient beings, the wish to lead them out of their suffering and establish them in Buddhahood, then because the sentient beings are limitless, that attitude or that beneficial attitude, the wish to help others, to benefit them, is itself limitless, and therefore the merit that is produced by having that attitude of wishing to help others is itself limitless as well. So the commentary here says, those sentient beings, the limitless sentient beings, out of the love and compassion, a bodhisattva who is motivated by love and compassion is able to lead them from their suffering and establish them in Buddhahood. This is definitely the case. So this then correlates the limitlessness of the suffering of sentient beings and the limitlessness of the attitude of wishing to free them from their suffering, and then the limitlessness of the merit which arises from that attitude.
인자 룽게 가서 안에 소남 타야 봐 써봐대 점낸 데기 룽게 가서 숨바니 마세 안에 리베 주베더라 대중에서 애들이 댄지 장년 딜라나 심장 캄네 타야 배 팬도 삼바야 대단 장아서 리베 주베더라 심장이 캄 타야 봐래 타야 봐 인상 타야 비 심장 탐제라 팬도 그 삼바 제와 인상 소남야 타야 봐서 속그래 소는 타야 버지 소바 인자 안에 산제 그 산 공부 톱 나와대 다 편에디마도 두고래.
So here then above it was said that we can establish the feasibility of collecting of amassing the collection of merit by scriptural statements, and it was simply said that is the case in the scriptures. So that's one way in which we can establish that. But here, then, it's actually being established by reasoning as well, because we can observe that there's limitless sentient beings throughout the entire universe. If we think and observe throughout the cosmos, there are limitless sentient beings. And then if we're able to develop this attitude of wishing to benefit those sentient beings, the love and compassion which wishes to free them from their suffering, then that attitude, since it is the object of that is limitless, the attitude itself is limitless in its scope. And then since the attitude has that is limitless, then the merit which is produced by having that attitude is equally limitless, and therefore one is able easily to amass the collection of merit through having this kind of limitless wish to benefit other sentient beings.
Oh yeah, 주디 산제 톱라와니 대다 땜바네 되니 미냐와야 냐야중 양다 람바 내송데 밤에 규장 섬전남 세대가라 다 나는 바양다 버서 산제 요코마 토바르 차오 냐베 탐제비 잔주 샘바테 와 대다를 아니 나는 바양다 버서 산제 요코마 톰되기 아니 샘제 땜바 내와 되니 어디 아니 가소래 냐와 마냐와롱 탐자 양다바 탐자 테니 양다바 랑바네 송데 아니 니로바다 미야보 강기 내가 소야 개발라 이 미데바당 제바 밤에바 교화당 가소래 출장 섬제 타야비 치나 아니 섬제 미타야비 섬제 타야바 시도 소남양 뒤 다바르 아니 사바르 교화 사바 규에 규타야바 테나 산제 타야바 산제니 타야바 톰미가오 산제 그 소남 톰미 가서 토바가와 말이.
So the next verse shows that by that reason, which has just been expressed, that it's easy to obtain Buddhahood. And the next two verses explain this. Since sentient beings are limitless, from the point that this commitment is made, one who remains resolute, whether she or he is, here it says resting or not resting actually in the text, but one could read that as asleep or awake, or even careless, will still constantly gather merit that, like beings, is limitless. And since this merit is limitless, it is said that attaining limitless Buddhahood is not difficult, is not hard. So the commentary here on this explains that such a bodhisattva who has vowed, who has made that vow, made that promise, and here the promise is that you think, I will achieve this unexcelled perfect awakening. You have that promise, you make that promise. I myself will achieve unexcelled perfect awakening. And with that kind of promise, the bodhisattva generates a stable bodhicitta, the wish to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. And one who remains has that bodhicitta generated such that it's very firm and stable. Whether they're not resting or they're resting, whether they're asleep or awake, it doesn't matter. From the time that they've properly taken up that vow or promise to thinking that I will achieve unexcelled awakening, then even at the times when they become careless, such that their minds are not focused upon merit, then because it is the case that sentient beings are limitless, then just as those sentient beings are limitless, so they will constantly, at all times, amass merit which is limitless. And because that cause, the limitless merit is limitless, then it's not. One should understand that it's not difficult to obtain this Buddhahood, which is itself is limitless.
Oh yeah.
Junjuk.
Anna said, oh yeah, then the desert, never dead, I said it. 탐자의 잔주 삼바 대다 semge ba damba newa ni teni rwa 나는 뭐 양다 봐 저거 창조도 섬겨봐 땜봐 내와 되니 난다 가서 그래 매섬체 멤버 창조 섬체 대전에 아니 그 껴봐라 놈들기 아니 섬겨봐서 맞아 아니 자사지 껴봐 치료라出行的 라바 차가인 양바기 아니 주비도 봐 양다 봐 라바是吧 미냐 람바티 미냐 양 야야 이런 저 담자 되니 양 람바네 송데 라 아니 다 개와 미도 개와라 이 미도 봐세 스타진 데라 송아 나신 전에 되네 송데 니로감 밤에 주자 선남주 아니 유미차와 도마시 나가냐 봐라도 좀 세지 진주기 되네 송데 니로감 밤에 교장 선남주 아니 유미샤와 도마시 나가냐 봐라도 총 세대당 디기 양다바 람바 선원에 송데 개와라 유미도 봐 밤에 봐 교장 아니 치료자와 섬자 타협이 치나 섬자 타협과 신도 아니 소남양 타협하지 이 뒤에 따봐 아니 가서 쏘봐 교아 세대 소남 타협 따서 주르 윤재 되나 주 타협 되나 아니 상제양 아니 타협 가서 토바미가와 시와 차오
So here we can add some things to this last portion of the explanation where it says a bodhisattva who's made that promise. The promise there is the or made that kind of vow within themselves. That's referring here specifically to the aspirational form of bodhicitta. Thinking that I will achieve unexcelled perfect awakening for the sake of all sentient beings. That vow or promise is specifically with reference to the aspirational form of bodhicitta, which is the wish to achieve unexcelled perfect awakening for the sake of all sentient beings. And then once that generation of the mind that bodhicitta has become very firm and stable, and then once one has taken that vow or that promise has been properly taken up, here in the commentary where it says properly taken up, this is in reference actually to the active form of bodhicitta, which is the aspect of bodhicitta in which one is actually engaging in the practices of practicing generosity and ethical conduct and so forth, motivated by the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So that active form of bodhicitta, once that has been properly taken up as a commitment, then it says whether one's resting or not resting, sleeping or not sleeping, even if one's mind is not focused upon virtue, such that one has become sort of not conscientious about virtue, then in that case, once the active form of bodhicitta has been firmly established in your mind, then because sentient beings are limitless, one will always, at all times, while sleeping, while not being even focused on virtue necessarily, one will be accumulating a limitless amount of merit, which is limitless to the same extent that sentient beings are limitless. And then by that kind of cause, which is limitless, one will actualize, it will not be difficult to achieve Buddhahood, which is itself is limitless.
근데 인자다 가서래 탐바삼바 점지장 상제 최라 체파나 semjen mali 탐제지 대대 점바 매주고세 안에 semjen라 탐바삼바 점지장 안에 소남 빠도메 바사기나 아니 치체도 잡아 semjen 같은 안함 바양다바 소베 상제 공바 톰데 그 sem제 바 마도 제바 마사 안에 소베 자주 공바 톱이 체도 안 줘봐라 놈들 끼어라 안에 사람 타야봐요 요거 요한장
So here then, well, it's explained that just having the attitude of wishing to help others, having the just even the wish to benefit sentient beings, the merit of that is measureless. Just that simple wish to benefit others, sentient beings, is the merit that derives from that is measureless. But if you go beyond that and you say, I will become a Buddha, you form this wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, then the merit from that is vastly more than that of that simple wish to benefit others. And then if you go beyond that and you act upon that initial, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, and you actually engage in the practices that that develop that achievement of Buddhahood, motivated by that bodhicitta, then the merit that derives from that is of course limitless.
Oh yeah, that is yeah. 단다 혼도 셰게 셈니오 되기 진주련 조와 되단 조와이 체다 셰와자 지신케베 디니지 체다르미시 셰와차 스리가라 유현지도 안는 조원 되바라 아니 조비 체베 심바다 마심바기 니요와 저와 여바나 신체 조와 되단 조와이 체다 셰와다 지신도 케베 아니 창조지 하나만 봐 양다봐 소외 산재주 공방 톰되지 셈지 깨니 아니 셈대 아니 하나만 봐 양다봐 소외 산재주 공방 톱이 치도 아니 줘봐라 놈들이 아니 제외 셈바다 말씀바 이용거래.
So then the verse from the introduction to the Bodhisattva's conduct is expresses this idea as well, where it says that just as one understands the difference between the desire to go and going, similarly the wise or intelligent person understands the differences in the sequence or the stages of these two. These two here it refers to the two forms of bodhicitta, the aspirational form of bodhicitta and the active form of bodhicitta. The first form of the aspirational form of bodhicitta is similar to forming the wish to go somewhere. You think, I would like to become a Buddha for the sake of, I would like to achieve unexcelled perfect awakening for the sake of all sentient beings. So that simple wish is the first form of bodhicitta, the aspirational form of it. Then when one actually does something, that is, does something so as to achieve Buddhahood, motivated by that, governed by that aspiration, then that is what is called the active form of bodhicitta, where whatever one's doing is, in a sense, controlled by your primary motivation of the aspiration to become a fully awakened Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And so this has the same kind of relationship to the difference that we see before, like making a plan to go somewhere or thinking I will go somewhere, as opposed to the activity of actually going to that place. The two forms of bodhicitta have the same kind of difference between them.
네가 가르쳐 버려서나 멤버들 주비 단위 전지 창조기 셈 세가나 창조기 셈들라 멤버 창조기 셈다 주바 창조기 셈 지당 메셈스나 아니 체도 저 셈제 탐제도 탑자라는 바양다 복소베 산제주 공부 토벌 초 냠비 셈 지당 대면서 잠보와체 아니 셈제 때네 체도 저 셈제 탐제 탑자라는 바양다 복소베 산제주 공부 토벌 초 냠바기 아니 셈데 깨네 셈데 뒤 남양 미당 냠바디 면선 탐자 제체是吧 되니 멤버 찬주게 셈 깨네 뒤 제수 아니 자사지 잡아 치루를 놈데 레디간라 아니 죽돔 셀레 바 죽돔 오 텐라와데 다 알아서 줄라야 제초거래. 와 매선 잠보 와다. 매선 탐자 잔다. 안 주동 라야 돼. 안 죽음 주바서 잠보 소리 주 찬주서 담바 라야 돼. 알아서 줄라 레와라. 라루치미 간라 찬주 그삼라 이규르기 녀와 깨봤나? 아니 주동 렘바 송거래. 그와 대인상 텐더와데 알아서 줄라. 아 찬주서 남아시우나 찬주 좀 맞게병 알아내 요체 죽돔체 매섬체 매섬 잠보 매섬 탐자제 아니 찬주세비 담바 주비 담바 산 죽돔세 되라 친루라 로베테 나는 바양다 샘께바 잔지 메셔바 나는 바양다 바 조베 산제 요 콤바 토비 친도 저바 친루라 로바 차기 냠기 다지 얘게 양다바开朗吧 세들이 오 텐더와데 안 졸려 요체
되니 가르수 순난다 가르수 만소
야 맞춰서
디죽라 가르수나
다 주바 셈제다 멤버 셈제 세데 어디 멤버 찬주 그선다 주바 찬주 셈세데 다 찬주 셈발만 말해
장주스불라 메바
장주스불라 마인바래 요마
마인바 요마래
멤버 장주 그 셈당 주바 장주 그 셈니오테
로스
그래서 맨섬 세대당 야 아고서 맨섬 잠보와다 맨섬 탐자 젠당 장주스불 돈바데 아랑주 줄라 요아래 다 랭간 아랑주 랭간 한다도 좋아 야
장주스불 말해
전체 말로 한 거 전체 200.
Oh, okay. There's okay. So, among these two forms of bodhicitta, the aspirational bodhicitta and the active forms of bodhicitta, there's actually different gradations of it. That is, there's what is called the mere aspirational bodhicitta, or the aspirational bodhicitta in its kind of mere, how do I say zamboa? How would you translate zamboa? Do you have a translation for that? No? Okay. It's like the mere or sort of minimal form of that, perhaps, is a way to translate that. And then there's the aspirational bodhicitta in which is bound by an oath, or in which one has taken made a promise to perform the conduct pertaining to the bodhisattva practices. And then there's the actual taking of the vow, that form of bodhicitta, taking the vow. 건다 잠보와서나 이 문슨 담보
문슨 잠보와서나 다 문슨 쳐봐젠들 많이 봐. 그봐 잠보와서나 치도 저거서 산재지 공부 토바 차오냐비 셈 대잠라 문슨 잠보와서 등아산도 줄여 와지.
So we non-bodhisattvas can have this first level of bodhicitta, that is the thought that I should become a unexcelled, perfectly awakened Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So that mere thought of thinking I will do this is at the minimal level is something that we can produce.
그래서
탐자진
탐자진에서의 셈데 끼니 셈데 뒤 남양 미당 냠바 탐자진아 아니 딜라면서 탐자진
So then once you've developed that basic level of aspirational bodhicitta, and then you make a vow, or you take an oath in effect, saying that I will not at any time ever abandon this bodhicitta, this aspiration to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings.
Oh, yeah.
That's the second level.
대란 죽겠단바.
So then, based upon that aspiration to become a fully awakened Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, and having made the vow that you will never relinquish it, you'll never give it up, then if you then take the vows which are connected to the actual practice or the active form of bodhicitta, the development of the path through the perfections and so forth, then taking those vows, then that's called having properly taken the vow of the active form of bodhicitta. So these three initial sort of dimensions or phases of developing bodhicitta are such that people like ourselves can have them, even though we're not actually bodhisattvas.
Oh yeah, the next we send the the Zamba. 아니 나는 뭐 양다버서 왜서 코바 토바 차고 양바 그 셈디야 곰네 타를 안에 좀이 영화 테니 뒤카도 이나야 배 토바 차고 냠도 좀이 영화 텐디 잠바 안에 장주게 셈 천이 받게와 안에 대대 잠바 대게와당 아마 그 면섬데 면섬 멤버 장주게 셈 안에 레조고 말해
Ngamagi
mensa tamboji arwa okui gyunde semgui gyunde member ane kasore member chanju ksem.
So then, so this initial stage of developing bodhicitta, where we simply have a occasional and temporary and a wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, and we do that, have that aspiration that it has to be sort of like generated. We have to produce it with some effort and so forth. Then, and then having done, made the promise not to relinquish that at any time, and then taking the vows which are connected to the actual practice of the bodhisattva path. When you've done that, and then you condition yourself to this over an extended period of time, over and over again. That is, one has to habituate we have to habituate ourselves to this, so that it becomes, in effect, natural to us, rather than something that we have to put in a lot of effort to produce. Once this has become sort of conditioned into us, and we become habituated to us, we have become habituated to it, then at a certain point, that bodhicitta becomes something which the experience of it occurs just automatically or spontaneously. It's not something that we have to we have to exert ourselves in order to give rise to it within us. So at that time, then this first initial thought of I should become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, that we had at the very, very beginning, the continuity of that through our continued conditioning of ourselves to it over the duration of the interim period, eventually the continuum of that turns into and becomes the actual aspirational bodhicitta as such, the definitive or the sort of definitional form of aspirational bodhicitta.
Oh yeah, tendawe semde zome gu nyawaya tenpadang ane memba chanju gu sem geba ane kansa de tiba chibe lamdo shuba chanju gu sem chanyi ba geba ane oda chiba tujiga dene deje la thoma de memba chanju gu sem che uzoje dene geba la lamdo gu chewe sisona da sem geba tamji ma jo ba geba la lokko wa yenzang ane geba la lamdo gu chewe ngosu sina.
So at the point at which that aspirational bodhicitta, which we produced at the very, very beginning of the process, where we've done it just by sort of having to, develop through some kind of process of thinking about it or inspiration or whatever, such that we just give rise to this momentarily sometimes, and then it fades or it's not there very strong. through habituation, that is doing this over and over and over again through the process over time, then that aspirational bodhicitta, once it's developed so that it becomes stabilized and spontaneous, so that that experience of thinking I must become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings occurs without requiring exertion on our part, but rather occurs without needing exertion. That form of aspirational bodhicitta, which is the definitional version of it, or the sort of actual real form of bodhicitta, when that has we've produced that, then we are actually bodhisattvas, and we have entered into the bodhisattva path at that time. And then after that, from that point onwards, when we engage in activities motivated by that aspirational form of bodhicitta, then the activities that we're involved in are the activities of the bodhisattva path. And so, but those activities as well, the source of those goes back to our earlier attempts to practice the bodhisattva path and to perform things like generosity and so forth, governed by the aspirational form of bodhicitta, the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Earlier on, we were doing these things with that kind of aspiration, but and again, through this process of conditioning or habituation, eventually that kind of attitude of doing whatever we do with the wish to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings becomes as well sort of more spontaneous, or does not require the kind of effort that was necessary to develop it or produce it earlier on. And then, so then the active form of bodhicitta comes into play, and when one has become an actual bodhisattva.
Oh yeah, that thing. Remember that you be, Daniel Janji, Chanju, Semniji, Sonam Tayaba. They were up to they were Tayaba, the La to Juba, Cheta, then it Sumba. 八面新天机、军政机、三界机托恐怕托老啊，是吧？我八度没把西单点白，三界机恐怕托老吧。康熙八面推来的绿线八度没点头，哦，安尼强就八度没得机，给我八度没得吧？谁干了？安尼强就先把错太阳把说吧，安尼。 错三要错三，他也把说把天理是吧？强就八没讲啊，强就八都没把太讲，俺那八都没把，那把西错的，你看说的，人不没多把其他呢，他把民族的他把主的，是的啦。康熙八没推来的，吕建八没八都没得多，强就八都没得这。 我八顿没得白是的，大多数的话，人家人不没得把其他的拖把几的拖把就个嘞是，大看的嘞是那，两者就是。
So the next verse, then, next two verses explain how it is that, or to conclude that discussion there, it says that, therefore, these two forms of bodhicitta, the aspirational bodhicitta and the active form of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, as such, consists of these two forms, the aspirational and the active forms. So the merit that comes from them is limitless, and therefore one is able to achieve a result, easily achieve a result which is limitless as well. And so
아니 초지를 보면서 봐 치다보니 타바 주로 세 되게 장주 쌤바 초타야 봐 쏘바 대고대 대니 아니로 아니 장주 방매장 빠도면 봐 남시 세 되게 장주 방매장 빠도면 봐 남시 남바시 오빠도 남바 시 아니 초지 림보 메도 봐 남바 시 초지 림보 마도 봐 아니 지다 토바 menjude 토바 주그레 세가라 초지 림보 메도 봐 지다 보나 토바 토 men주 진짜 시워디 저와 등하라 아체
So the next so then the next two verses 19 and 20 show the reason or that it's by reason of the four kinds of limitlessness that it's easy to achieve Buddhahood, the reason for that. And then 19 and 20 says, and again I'm translating instead of infinite as measureless, so I'm replacing all these infinites with measureless. Remaining for a measureless time and wishing to obtain measureless awakening for the sake of measureless measureless beings, the Bodhisattva performs measureless virtue. So how could she or he not obtain before long awakening, even though it be measureless, through the collection of these four that are measureless? So the commentary on this explains that the Bodhisattva who is amassing or collecting a measureless collection of merit, how could they, although it is the case that awakening is measureless, by means of the this collection, which is measureless in four ways, without requiring a long period of time, how could it not be the case that they would obtain this measureless kind of awakening? So the answer there is they would, in fact, obtain this measureless awakening. No.
그래서 다 되니 가서래 또 봐줘야지. 되니 대제라 가시 밤에 뒤내대 류전 밤에 류전 봐도 매된도 창주 봐도 매되지 그 봐도 매되봐 세와되기 창주 삼바 강시 아니 뒤 봐도 매봐 밤에 비 뒤수 뒤 봐도 매봐 코르네지 와 밤에 비 뒤수 코르네지 심장 류전 봐도 매봐 심장 봐도 매봐 뭐 류전 봐도 매봐 아니 동안라 저기 텐도 아니 창주비 연대 봐도 매배 gem바 아니 나는 뭐 양다 봐도 연대 봐도 매봐 gem바게 나는 뭐 창 아니 창주 아니 가서를 되지 손이지 뒤에 겨와 봐도 매봐 아니 창주도 비치비 제봐
So then such a bodhisattva remains in samsara for a measureless period of time. So this bodhisattva remains in samsara for a measureless period of time. And in order to liberate measureless living beings from their suffering, such a bodhisattva desires to achieve a awakening which is ornamented by measureless good qualities. And so having that kind of desire, such a bodhisattva acts so as to accumulate a measureless collection of merit, which is included within those two collections, collection of merit and gnosis, as mentioned above.
Oh yeah, that didn't 손이 네 가서래 대야 천산에 다 손이 써발라 길은 미샤와 그러마 지 손이 써발라 길은 미샤와 담바텔라 당아 예비나네 손이지 리슴 동아 세와 직담바 아 예배나 손이지 리슴지 동아 아 세와 직담바테 다 나두가 직담바 손남지 리지 동아 세와 이시지 이지 동아 세와 손이 써발라 교육 좀 해봐 인지 친구 너도 담바 제 대유가나 담보 손이지 리슴지 동아 세와 직담바니
So then next comes an instruction, advice that one shouldn't become discouraged in the process of, or the practice of accumulating the two collections, collection of merit and gnosis. and this has multiple subdivisions. Again, there's a general explanation of how to remove mental and physical suffering by means of the two collections themselves. How it is, or the explanation that these two collections of merit and gnosis serve to eliminate the mental and physical suffering, and that through merit, there's an instruction or instruction on how merit itself eliminates physical suffering, and the way in which gnosis eliminates mental suffering, and that then there's an instruction on how it is that there's no reason to become sad or discouraged again, sad, let's say. There's no reason for sadness when one is accumulating these collections. And then finally, an instruction on the capability of great compassion. So the first topic here is the general instruction on how it is that the two collections dispel the mental and physical and mental suffering.
Oh yeah, that's when you listen me to myself. I sit down by the la. Sanjay ji do 20 sobala and gilu ba mechaiwa. Gilu ba mechade. Sonam taya shewada, yishe taya shewati. Lidan semji dungada, newa new to sewa che, say gana. Sonam taya said, that Katajun Kondo Shabanani, Suguji, so, and sonam just saw taya bata. Suguji, Yishiki saw taya by Sheva Tigi. Sonam gets saw gone by, and then Luigi Dunga Sewata. Yishiki saw the semji dungada, new to sewa cheba. That's Sony, Yanani Sony Bogi, Sony Gombala Dana, Luda Semji Dungata, new to sewa chegre. Luda Semji Dungada, new to sewa che. They say what Cheva Yenda, Koyin Jubala, Giluchisa the Kawachigore, and quality Dunga Jingu, Jubala, Giluba Rigre. Sonam Sony Sobala Jimilubata. Koyin Jubala Giluba Ride, Koyin Judrumna, Jumaluba, Koyin Judrumna, Terala Dunga Tayaba Jeba in town. Oda Giluchisa de Carresana, I need to Koyin Jubala Giluba Chakore.
So the next verse then explains this in it's number 21, and it says, what is called limitless merit, and also called limitless gnosis, quickly eradicate the suffering of both body and mind. So here it said that this limitless collection of merit, as we mentioned previously, the limitless collection of merit is the primary cause of the physical embodiments of Buddhahood. And then the limitless collection of gnosis is the primary cause of the Dharmakaya. So those two limitless collections, the limitless collection of merit, the limitless collection of gnosis, act to quickly dispel the suffering of body and mind. They function so as to quickly dispel or eliminate the suffering of body and mind. Therefore, it's inappropriate to be discouraged at the accumulation of those collections. On the other hand, it is appropriate to become discouraged at one's production of the causes of samsara. Because those causes of samsara and that activity of creating the causes of samsara is something which in the future will generate limitless suffering for oneself.
Oh yeah, that is jela. That is sonam jiliji dunga sevatela. You were sonam jiliji dunga sevatela. And you casore, so sabala. Sonam good so sabala, and then Luigi Gaja Mambo to go there. Luigi Gaja Mambo to go by Yenza, Luigi Dunga Taya by Yamson Yon Gogre, Yamdo, and it Giluba Mishate. Mijade, the Bang and Roll Luigi, Dunga de Home Lasso Chung, 대대 마시아 소남지 스바시아나 테메도 소 되게 가르래잖아 소남 그 초사바 류지까지 타야 반영수 용고와 인자 냠주냠도 안에 소남 소발라 딜루바 치교 아마레스 미세바 가르래잖아 디바 체베 남이지 되불랑 안주 류지 아니 가서 제금 이달라 제금 냐와라 차장라 소와기 동아 말리바 중라 자주 삼바지 디바 마체신 아니 오 가서리 디바 마체신 초소비 소남기 아니 스바 현나 아세 대반데네 아니 스바 현나 아니 대와 바시 중기 류지동마 주사자 매도 세야지 대대 마체 소남기 스바 현나 대매도 소 스바 현나 대와 바시 중기 류지동마 주사자 매도 세야가 내는 대와 들어와라 샘시 수시 기루 줄 자네스 아니 진주라 소만하신 대와는 대와 지대 들어와라 아니 로단 담바기 셔럽다 담바지에나 아니 기루 시주와 말해서 되는 대와 들어와라 샘시 수시 기루 줄 아니 진주라 소만하신 말
So next shows how the merit functions to clear away or eliminate physical suffering. So someone might think, well, in order to accumulate this collection of merit, one has to undergo all kinds. One has to experience limitless physical suffering, like giving away your body and all of these hardships that the person has to undergo so as to to accumulate the collection of merit. However, and someone might then get discouraged, thinking, how can one do this because of all of this suffering that one has to undergo in the process of accumulating the collection of merit. However, it's not appropriate. One should not have that kind of discouragement. And then this verse explains why that is the case. Hunger, thirst, and other such physical suffering occurs in negative rebirths due to one's negativity, or negativity here translates like negative actions or sinful, non-virtuous behavior. The bodhisattva does not engage in negativity. Due to merit, he has no such suffering in other rebirths. So here it says that it's through our performance of negative actions, non-virtuous actions, that one undergoes suffering in physical suffering in the evil destinies, lower states of existence. So as, for example, one experiences incredible hunger and thirst when one is born as a preta, a hungry ghost, so-called, and or one experiences incredible heat and cold when one is born in hell, in the various hells. So all of those kinds of physical sufferings, all of those arise out of this, out of our activities, which are non-virtuous or wicked in nature, or non-virtuous in nature. And the bodhisattva, on the other hand, does not perform those kinds of negative actions, and therefore, and instead accumulates, by virtue of their accumulation of the merit, which is included within the collection of merits, those virtues that, or merits that the bodhisattva creates, simply experiences bliss in other existences. And from that accumulation of merit, that collection of merit, they don't experience even the slightest physical suffering at all. So this is also expressed as well in the introduction to the Bodhisattva's way of life, where it says that the Bodhisattva goes from happiness to happiness, or that is, goes from happy forms of existence into even happier forms of existence through their performance of the activities, the meritorious activities on the Bodhisattva path.
Oh yeah, that dig. 소남지 소남 유리지 동아 세와 차신 다 디제라 소남 그 소지 유리지 시세와 동아 세니 다 이시 그 소지 이기 동아 세와데 초소발라 이기 동아 바 도마 안 중년도 안에 안 길로 봐 미자와 가르레서나 몸배 이기 동안에 차단 지단 되라서 아니 가서래 대대 매비 시와이 대니 니와 니도 봉 제가 나시 몸배 세대 예매지 탔다신 세가나 아니다 여기 kontiyaabake 다자게 타 때는 매밤 아니 라시 예바게 탔다신 내루게 되라 몽바게 몽배 아니 얘기 동안이 아니 얘기 동안 차유턴도 내와 제단 거 요기 내봐 야워당 아니 대라서와게 찍봐 아니 마진는 게요 현지대 토도를 와게 아니 대발라서와 아니 다 된데 빠도 매봐 중라
So next, the person might think, well, isn't it the case that in collecting or accumulating this collection of merit, that one will have to undergo mental suffering? That and thinking in that way, they might develop discouragement at the idea of collecting that mass of merit. So here the verse explains that how that is not the case, and the contrary is actually the case. So it says in verse 23, due to confusion comes the mental suffering of attachment, anger, fear, lust, and such. The Bodhisattva quickly eliminates this suffering by realizing that all things are foundationless. So, you make it ta. You make it ta.
You make it ta. 라신지 여바당 때는 매바게 타다신. You make it 타다신. 내 루지 된라 몸배 아니 얘기 동안 아니 차유턴도 녀당. 당와기 여기 넘바당 자오당 아니 된라서와기 지바. 아니 현지대 마신에 현지대 톱도 레비기 아니 대바 대현지대 아니 나라 차바게 오빠도 매바 좀 그래.
So the explanation here is that having the extreme views of existence and non-existence, here this extreme views are as have been explained previously. The extreme view of existence or realism is the view that things actually exist by means of their own intrinsic nature, or then the extreme of non-existence and the view of that extreme is the view that things don't exist, and especially karma and its results do not exist, cannot be established in any way whatsoever. So those two kinds of extreme views, that is, having those kinds of extreme views and being confused about the way things exist, that is, having confusion about the actual way in which things exist, from this one experiences mental suffering. Mental suffering arises from that. So if you have that kind of confusion which doesn't understand the way things are, then one strives to get the objects of one's desire or attachment. One strives for those objects. And then objects that we find unattractive or that we have aversion towards, we get angry at them and we try to push them away or eliminate them in that way. So we get angry, develop hatred, and so forth. And then likewise, because of this mental confusion and because of confusion and the mental suffering that arises from this, we have fear, different kinds of fear, like we have fear of rulers, kings, and so forth, or fear of demons, things of that nature. And then out of having the wish to obtain others' property, we develop desire in that sense as well. And we have all of these various kinds of forms of mental suffering in sort of to a limitless or measureless extent. However, that
oh yeah, that change about so about tea, see he so about tea, cheer tamjagi, and it's our dang. Cheer kanda kangi and tamjagi, and it's our da she. Then, I oh Rashinji don't be Neluji turn sheva years. Tedem may be sheva years, Gana oh. change about so sabati, he could so sabati, cheer tamjagi, zawada, shidang, then. Ane Rashinji don't be Nelugi turn to be, Ane sheva years. Ane Yiji dunga teni, Ane oh. Nito Pongre, Kare, Sana, Neru to be share of Tegi, Dunga Tamjaki, Zawa, and the dancing pong. Dunga Jita, Dunga Tamjaka, Javan, good dancing pame, and the Dunga Tamjapon, Chuba Yinzang, Iji Dunga Teni, you are new to Pong Chiro.
So then it says, on the other hand, this the Bodhisattva, who is collecting, is accumulating the mass of merit, the collection of merit. This bodhisattva has the wisdom which understands the root, the foundation, the basis of all phenomena. This root or foundation or basis of all phenomena, the actual way in which things exist, such as that they are devoid of any intrinsic nature, they're empty of intrinsic nature, by means of that wisdom that that understands the way things exist. Then, by means of that sort of wisdom that understands the nature of things, is that which eliminates the misapprehension of things as being real, which that form of ignorance which functions as the foundation for all of the mental afflictions, and all of the other mental afflictions are grounded or founded on that. And therefore, since the mental afflictions in total are the source for all of the various forms of suffering that arise, all of the other kinds of mental suffering particularly, therefore, by that kind of wisdom that understands the actual nature of things, the bodhisattva is able to very quickly get rid of all of that mental suffering. Again, didn't maybe sheba.
Then maybe Shava. That didn't allow someone. Chertam Jagi, and it's Zawada, Shidan, then Ranshiji Tomba. Ranshiji Tomba, Ranshiji to be Neluji turn to be Shava is.
Tomba crown,
then Ranshiji Tomba. Xiang Ranshiji Meba. Zawaya Rashi Meba, then Rashi Meba, Ranshiji to be Neluji turn Shevi. Then Meba said Ranshiji Meba.
Then Meba.
Oh, she done Zawada, then Ranshiji Tomba, Ranshiji Meba Shevi.
Did Nordo Chesu. Nordo Chesu. Chutamjiki Zawa, she then the Ranshiji.
And you send us, son of good source of the Chertamji, Zawada, Shidan dance. Ranshiji Tombi. Tomba Shivi Gana, then Meba Sheva said, Tessie Ranshiji Tomba, Ranshiji Meba Sheva.
Ranshiji Meba.
Or Ranshiji Meba, Ranshiji Tomba, Ranshiji maybe Neluji turned to be Sheva Yi. Then easy to a new to Pong. Yeah, gotcha.
Chutamjiki Zawatang Shidang then.
Chutamji Zawatang Shidang. Then Ranshiji Meba.
Oh, Ranshiji Meba.
Then Ranshiji Meba, she Ranshiji Meba, Zawa Ranshiji Meba.
So I, in that section I just translated, the way I read it was a little bit, could be read differently. So where it says the root, the root literally, or the foundation or the basis of all phenomena, that is, or one can say, if one reads that as intrinsic existence, then one would say that the non-existence of that is the actual way in which things exist. That the actual way in which things exist is that they are empty of having a intrinsic nature which functions as the root or the foundation or the basis. All phenomena are devoid of that kind of root or foundation or basis in the sense of intrinsic existence functioning as their foundation.
Oh, yeah, that's actually. Yeah.